Welcome into another edition of the Roll Jays podcast. Jimmy Allen, Alex Trey, Casey Matthews here with you for this episode. We'll have Jalen Courtney-Williams, Creighton's defensive coordinator, joining us in the next segment. But before we get there, we're going to break down the men's basketball program season up until this point. And obviously, the number 10 ranked team in the country coming off that big win over their in-state rivals. Just one loss in the season and a tournament final. Alex, we'll start with you. What have you been most impressed with by this team this year?
Excuse me. For me, it's the rebound after the one loss. I mean, you flat out don't really show up against Colorado State for a multitude of reasons, right? Some guys are sick. That could just be a bad matchup, but you flat out just didn't play well. And then you come out, you go to Oklahoma State, you win that game. It's a little bit closer than it looked on the floor. Feel like that one could have been a bigger win, but then you come out and you throttle your in-state rival in your revenge game. So the ability to rebound after a loss, at least so far this season, has been impressive, and I'm not seeing any signs of a repeat of the 6-game slide last year.
Casey, you're obviously looking at this team through a different lens this year, literally and figuratively. What have you been most impressed by through this stretch of games?
Yeah, I've been impressed with just the overall effort. I think the Colorado State game obviously is an exception to that, but I felt like the other day against Nebraska, it was 40 minutes of strain, 40 minutes of really trying to be at their best on every single possession, and I think that's difficult when it's hard sometimes to play with a lead, and I think that's something a lot of people don't think about. But you start getting up on teams, like there's always a tendency to all right, we got it. And I never felt that way the other day. Never really felt that way against Oklahoma State. And so, yeah, that's impressive. I'd also say, and we talked about it a couple episodes ago. Like I was expecting this kind of season from Baylor. Just seeing the work that he put in the offseason, and I think he has just been outstanding and just improved his game, not only offensively but defensively as well.
He looks a lot more comfortable this year too. For me, defense, and I know we're going to talk to Jalen in a minute, but for me, and I said this on the Creighton Athletics Hour last night, that the defense has been the most impressive part to me. We know Creighton can shoot it. We've seen three of these guys be able to shoot for over 40% from three-point land. And I think that Colorado State game is just an outlier. I mean, Creighton shot 27% from the field. I mean, this is one of the best shooting teams in the country. That's probably a one-of-one situation. We're not going to see that again. But what we've been able to see both Trey Alexander and Baylor Shireman do is take either the 1 or 1A shooter on the opposing team and completely make them obsolete. 8 games now in the books. 8 leading scorers have come into play Creighton, and not one of them have led their team in scoring on that night. And I think that says a lot about what they've been able to do defensively. Oh, and by the way, they still got Ryan Kalkbrenner guarding the rim. So it's easy to be pretty good defensively. And I think the important thing, and we talk about everything about the Colorado State game being a negative, they went on the road on a Thanksgiving Day and played a very physical team, and they didn't let them beat them twice. And I think that's a big deal. As well. If we started off the season talking about question marks about Stephen Ashworth, and obviously that Iowa game had a lot of people worried about what it was going to be like for him going forward. Not only this team rebound after a loss, Stephen Ashworth has showed up pretty big after a couple of games where it looked like he may be having some problems adjusting to this system. Alex, what have you seen from Stephen Ashworth in the last couple of games against Nebraska and Oklahoma State that give you positive vibes about him going forward?
Well, I mean, he's making shots, right? Like that's a huge thing. But I've been saying this all season, even when he wasn't necessarily making shots or getting a lot of shots. Like Stephen Ashworth alone is a threat for this team, and I liked where he was at. I didn't have a problem with his play yet. Now, obviously, down in Kansas City, that he struggled a little bit more, but. If you want Trey to be a ball handler a little bit more, like the staff has talked about, I don't think that there's a better guy in that starting lineup than Stephen Ashworth. And with his ability to move off the ball, create extra spacing, and his willingness to be a passer. There's some shots that I think he should have taken this year that he has decided to pass up several times, both in the paint and beyond the arc. And I think that is where he's struggling the most, is not necessarily feeling comfortable taking the shots that they want him to take and that he should take.
Casey, for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is such a loaded question. You know, I would say this, like on this team, there should never be a possession where they take a bad shot. Because every single player can shoot. Every single player is a threat. And so I think that's part of the equation for Steven, is understanding, like, you should never be forced into a bad shot unless it's late shot clock, and in which case most of the time the ball is going to be in Trey or Baylor's hands anyways. So I think that's one of the things for him is when he's locked in on shooting open shots, that's where he's at his best, and he's going to get them. I think there's always an adjustment with a player like Steven, because he's used to being, if not the man, like the second guy. And if you really break it down, he's the fourth guy in that starting lineup in terms of, do we want him to end a possession? And that's an adjustment. And I felt like he's doing a good job of understanding that his role's changed, but he's not allowing it to change him. And so I've really enjoyed watching that. You know, having him on the podcast a few weeks ago was great, just to sort of hear his perspective on the game. But I think it's really easy to say those things. It's a lot harder to do them. And I think he's really growing into that role of being truly unselfish, truly setting the table for guys like Baylor, Trey, Kalkbrenner. And I think that there's still so much room for growth there. And that's what I'm really excited about for him. Is like, he's going to have those days where he hits 5-6 threes in a game. He's going to have others where he might not even shoot 5 or 6 in a game. But can he have the same attitude? Can he give you the same effort? And I think what he's shown right now is that he can.
Well, when we talked to him, he brought up the fact that, you know, it is a big adjustment just learning this offense and the way Creighton plays. And he brought up the fact that, hey, I thought I knew how fast these guys wanted to get out and run, but I wasn't even close to what I expect, where my expectations were. It's way more difficult than that. And I specifically asked him about, hey, you know, Baylor's numbers were down from South Dakota State. You know, do you have any fear in that? And he said, well, not necessarily because of the adjustment in talent that I'm going to be playing against, but more just figuring out my role in this team. And I think, myself included, I think a lot of people looked at him and said, 24-year-old, ton of basketball experience, just roll the ball out and he'll be able to figure out the situation. And it's way more complex than that. You see him kind of finding, like you alluded to, Casey, you see him kind of finding his role now, but I don't even think he's reached anywhere near the potential that he can once he kind of gets his groove. And kind of like we saw Baylor at the end of the season last year. We're going to talk about defense. We're going to ask the defensive coordinator of Creighton, Jalen Courtney-Williams, how he's adjusted to his new role, expectations, and we'll talk maybe a little bit of barbecue when we come back here on the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.
Oh, all right. Bye, Jimmy.
See you, bro. Hey, life's
man.
good? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you? How's the role change?
It's good.
Do you need a customized online marketing plan and creative campaigns to help scale your business and achieve goals in 2023? Pixel Fire Marketing can not only help you achieve those goals, but we will help you crush them this year. Pixel Fire Marketing lives and breathes digital marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing has experts in strategic content creation, social media marketing, and website development. Check out Pixel Fire Marketing today and attack marketing in 2023.
Welcome back into the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Casey Matthews, Jimmy Allen, Alex Drake, joined by Jalen Courtney-Williams, who's a part of the Creighton men's basketball team that's off to a tremendous start this season. Jalen, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it.
Always. Thank you.
We obviously have seen your fingerprints all over the defense this year for Creighton, and you guys are playing fantastic ball. Can you just talk a little bit about what your transition has been to that side of the ball and how that process has gone for you personally?
It's funny because when Coach Miller was the defensive coordinator for our team, anytime a team scored on a layup, a three, or anything, I would kind of glance at him like, come on, man, what are we doing? And now that it's kind of me, I look at him for help, and he's like, come on, man, what are we doing? So No, it's been good. Obviously, having Coach Miller there, and Mac as well. Like we have a base defense that everything kind of starts from, and then we throw ideas at the wall and see what sticks going into every game. So it's been a learning process, but it's been fun.
Coach, looking at that kind of defensive base, you guys, there's a million different ways to call it. There's ice and drop coverage
Mhm.
on the pick and roll. Is that something that's just going to be the standard with when Kalkbrenner's in? And then do you guys think about changing it a little bit with Fred King or anything like that ever?
It just depends. Obviously, the best way to play a guy like Kalk is to funnel everything to him at the rim. But if you think back to Christian Bishop, obviously I wasn't here, but Casey was. They were more of a hard hedging team at that time, and so you got to do what's best for your personnel. Obviously, our ability to drop coverage and take away those threes, it puts us in a position to be successful on the defensive end every game. But you got to do what's best for your personnel.
Jay, so looking at this year, like obviously we all know what happened last year, and then the expectations are just through the roof, which is what you want, right?
Yeah.
How have you handled that personally, but then also with your relationship with the guys? How do you keep those expectations in check and keep them focused on getting better today instead of looking forward to March?
Yeah. I would say our experience last year really lends itself to our experience this year. Like I think last year everybody was taking in all the information and there was some even myself reading the tweets and everybody telling us how good we were going to be. Going into this year, I just didn't hear the noise at all. I think everybody was locked and loaded and focused on getting better. I think it helped that we had so many new guys and young guys. So we were teaching everything from scratch, it felt like. So we really didn't get caught up in the noise at all. And we're just focused on getting better. But, you have a season like you did, you go through a 6-game losing streak, skid the way we did, and then, you find yourself in the Elite Eight and then you lose the game the way you did. I think attention to detail is at its highest right now.
From your standpoint, who do you think has kind of shined the brightest defensively that you may not have thought or they weren't there a year ago? Who do you think's taken the biggest step forward defensively in your eyes?
Easily Baylor Shireman. I think what he's done with his body, working with Jeremy Anderson, our strength coach, just his lateral quickness, his ability to guard the ball screens. We put him on a post player last game versus Nebraska, and the guy struggled to move him. So I just think his ability to be versatile defensively, it's taken a huge jump, and it's helped our team tremendously. And I think I'll say this too. I think Stephen Ashworth has gotten better in every game. It's been a big focus of his to be able to guard different types of guards. And I think he's taking it personal when people try to go at him. So, he's been locked and loaded on that front as well.
I got a two-parter here for you, Coach. One, can you help the fans kind of understand the style of defense and how it's so effective? Like not necessarily forcing a ton of steals, but we force teams into the shots that we want, and that's how we start our break. And that keeps us out of foul trouble. So that's the first part. And then two, looking back at the Nebraska game specifically, is that game kind of a blueprint of how you want things to work all the time, where, they kind of thought that they could run with you guys a little bit and it turned out to be fool's gold for them? Because, they got a couple of transition layups after we scored, but overall, that's just going to lead to bad news for most opponents.
Yeah, I'll start with that one first. No, we made some mistakes in transition defensively for sure, but we always think our pace can get the best of teams. It's one thing to watch us on film or look at the numbers and say, okay, they play fast, but no, we really want to push it and on makes or misses. And then our base defense, obviously, like I said, we want to funnel everything into the big fella. We want to take away those threes and force those contested 2-point jump shots. I think if you look at our numbers right now, we're, top 5 or 3 in the country at taking away rim shots and 3-point shots. So, teams are shooting contested jump shots in the middle of the paint, which if you think back to, what game was that, Case? North Carolina State. They had a really talented player in Jaquavian Smith. He has 31 points, but he took 31 shots to get those 31 points, and they had no assists. And it's a game we didn't shoot it well, but it gave us an opportunity to stay in the game and then pull away late because, you just win in the math battle, so to speak. But it takes a special group to be able to do it. It takes a special player like Ryan Kalkbrenner to be able to quarterback those defenses, and a guy like Fred King has gotten a lot better in 2 years. But it's tough to do. It's tough to do.
Talk to us, Jay, a little bit about the big fella. As a fan now.
Which one? You mean me?
He said the big fella, not the biggest fella.
Yeah. So as a fan, obviously we all have expectations from a team level and an individual level. It seemed to me that he started games a little slower.
Yeah.
There's been maybe not as big of a focus on getting him the ball early, almost like, and I'm not saying that he's being taken for granted, but it's almost like you just know he's there. So if you want to get in the ball, you can get in the ball. And a lot of that's on him. Am I wrong? First of all, but two is like, it seems like the second half, there's been more of a concerted effort to involve him offensively.
Yeah.
And he's had some big moments, but what do you think the difference is for him in terms of like how do you get him to be able to produce statistically the whole game rather than have to make a concerted effort to get him the ball?
I would say going into those games, especially those earlier games, their number one goal is to take away Kalkbrenner, whether that be taking away his rolls, whether that be taking away his post catches, doubling him, things like that. So I think what happens throughout the course of the first half, he kind of settles. He's, I'm just not an option, and we all know he's not a selfish player. So he's perfectly fine with everybody else having a night if it's not his night. What happens is you go in the locker room and you show him ways on film, or you tell him the ways you can actually steal a basket here and there. You can steal a seal, and flat out, man, we don't need you to settle. We need you to establish yourself. So I think it's a two-way street. But as we've gone forward, at least the last game and a half, I think he's really started to really assert himself to start. And he's got to be a huge focal point to what we do. We have to go inside and out. Obviously, we hunt threes with the best of them, but we can't be a three-point first team. We got to be an inside-out attack.
Not to make this the Ryan Kalkbrenner variety hour.
No, let's do it.
When we talk about, I mean, what you just said is common knowledge that, when you have a legit 7-1 rim protector that can do all the things that Ryan does from a versatility standpoint, how does he handle that from an emotional standpoint? Because that's part of your job too, right? Kind of getting the mindset right and then equating that to what they could do on the court. How does he handle that, knowing that he's priority number one for every defense that's going to come into Chi this year?
Man, he's gotten so much better at the mental piece in the last, 2 years or so. He's always had really high expectations for himself, but now he's able to just kind of just play the game and let the game kind of happen. He used to miss a shot and beat himself up about it. Now he knows, okay, percentages say if I miss that one, I'll probably make the next 4 or 5.
Last year it would have been the next 9.
Yeah, exactly. But he's embraced the leadership aspect of it. So he kind of loses himself and he focuses on helping the other guys, and that's been a tremendous help for him as well mentally.
Sticking with the mental thing for just a second, and you talked about it. You're not above checking for Twitter for likes and things of that nature, and reading the press clippings a little bit. Alex and I were doing the post game show the other night after the Iowa game. We had people calling in and telling us that Kalkbrenner's soft and he refused to go out and guard those mid range shots, and obviously not seeing the bigger picture and understanding what's happening between the lines, and that was by design and what you guys were trying to do defensively. But that stuff's on social media too. How is this team kind of handling some of the negative things that we've seen after what happened in Kansas City? And then let's just be honest, there's haters out there.
It's tough. I think I'm the first generation, at least in this office, where Twitter was just a part of your life.
Yeah.
So for guys like, Mac and Coach Miller and Coach Kellogg and anybody else involved, like they grew up in a time where their phones weren't in their hands that way. But like Twitter came out when I was in 10th grade, I think. And
you can say all those old guys. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't think Murph has
you said that.
3 years.
I didn't say that, but it's just a natural part of your life where your phone is in your hand, the information is at the touch of your fingertips. And so for our guys, I think they've experienced enough of both sides of it, how positivity can sometimes impact you negatively a little bit, and then how the negative stuff can impact you. So I think now they're just at an even keel. They don't even bother with that stuff, or they take it with a grain of salt. I know I do. I can't even look at that stuff anymore. But yeah, it's been a learning process for everybody involved, I think. But again, I think the experience last year really helps those guys.
Coach, I kind of want to go to where we were talking about with Kalkbrenner not necessarily hunting for shots specifically in the first half. And I want to extrapolate that to the whole team. Can you help, I don't know, differentiate the line between being a shot hunter and just waiting for the right shot? Because these guys all got to be ready to shoot when it's there, but they cannot just be hunting shots like you see so many guys in college basketball.
It's the beauty of how we play, how we recruit, how we teach, and the culture that Coach McDermott has built. Like we don't recruit selfish players, so nobody out there is hunting shots, but everybody has a free opportunity to shoot the ball when we get the right shot. And a guy like Kalkbrenner, you know, we scrimmaged somebody, and he might have had 4 points in the scrimmage just 2 years ago, a year ago, something like that. And the way we do our analytic data at the end of every game, you know, he accounted for 35 points or something like that because of his seals or his rolls and things like that. And so I remember patting him on his back and say, "Hey man, tonight wasn't your night. The next one's probably yours. So keep your head up." And he looks at me and smiles. He was like, "Come on, man. Like I know what I did out there." Like he but you know, he and the rest of those guys, you know, Baylor and Trey and you know, Mason now has been in the program, and a guy like Steven, they're all aware and cerebral, and they're able to find plays for one another, and our shot is the best shot that we can get, not just this guy's shot.
So last year Vegas wasn't great, besides the Michael Jackson show that you and I attended. But this year, obviously, you're going back, and your team's healthy and ready to roll. So what are you looking for over the not just your Vegas game, but over the next 2 weeks? Like, what are you guys looking for? Like, what's the next step for you guys that you're hoping to take? You know, you're seeing UConn go to New York and beat North Carolina. You're seeing Marquette drill Texas, right? Like, there's some really great teams in this league. Like, what's the next thing for you guys to be able to show, you know, that you're in that league too?
First thing, you mentioned Vegas. We have to take a second and give thoughts and prayers to.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, everybody impacted by what's going on, man.
Have they mentioned any possibility of that game being moved elsewhere?
No, we haven't heard anything. But guys, that's just awful deal.
For sure. Because they're supposed to play Saturday too.
Right.
So we'll see how that works out well.
See, I don't know what'll happen there. But to your question, Case, man, we just, I don't know that we played a complete game yet. You know, we've had guys go off for huge nights and huge numbers. I think Nebraska, and then maybe Oklahoma State was our most complete defensive game. We want to see that continue, and then offensively, we just want to see guys continue to get comfortable and hit their strides. Like, you know, we've had a couple individual nights, but what happens when everybody is playing well? I think the ball offensively has gotten stagnant a time or two, especially when we face some physicality. And I think we've addressed it and gotten better at it. But I want to see us just continue to grow in that aspect, and then, you know, attack the rim more. Let's get to the free throw line, right?
Nice.
I had the privilege of talking to Mac on the Creighton Athletic Hour last night, and I brought up, and we'll get you out of here in this one. I brought up his coaching tree and how many, and with Huss leaving and D-Rock doing his thing over in Des Moines, and all the success that the coaches under Greg McDermott has had. And it seemed with Derek Kellogg coming to Omaha, being a former head coach himself. And it seems like when we're talking about young coaches around college basketball that have a potential to be a young head coach eventually, your name gets brought up quite often. obviously that's probably the end goal for you. When you start talking about that decision and maybe moving on to the next step, how involved is Mac with you in that process? And is that the aspiration for you to be a head coach of your own program someday?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It'll be a dream come true. Mac's role right now in my process, we don't sit and talk about that specifically, but he's a huge mentor in just the way you make decisions as a basketball coach, as a leader of a program, as a CEO of a program, the way you are in the community. And I'm able to ask him questions and, hey, why do you do this? Or, when in that moment, why'd you do that? Or 10 years ago, when you were this age, why did you make these kind of decisions? And he's very forthcoming with all that stuff for me. So it's been awesome. But just being able to be here and learn from him and get critiqued by him and all that good stuff, it's been awesome. And it's a privilege, to be honest with you. I'm not in a rush to be a head coach. Obviously, it'll be something, like I said, a dream come true. But because I'm here with him, doing the things that we're doing, you don't just leave this place. It's got to be something special.
After he hung up the phone, I made a PSA to Marcus Blossom and told him to break out the paycheck and keep you as long as we could. So
he's already done that, Jimmy. He's already done that.
Wait. For him or for me?
For you.
Yeah, man, we need that. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm trying to help everybody get that.
I got one more question.
Marcus is going to throw some more away too.
Yeah.
We'll go personal here, Jay.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the holidays here. It's going to be Christmas soon. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, that you got an awesome family. Obviously, I know your family. You're awesome. So, what are we most looking forward to this Christmas for the kids? But then tell us the best and the worst Christmas gift you've ever gotten.
They're probably
games on Christmas.
First off, since I've had kids, nobody cares about me anymore. I think all you guys can. So the best gift is obviously whatever they bring, because it's from them and they're so happy and here, Dad. But it's always like a pair of socks.
Yeah.
How many socks do you need, right? But it's always the best pair of socks I've ever gotten.
I have 3 bags of the same socks in the drawer.
But Case, I'll tell you. So my oldest daughter's name is Seven, guys. So Seven brought me a Christmas list. She's learning how to spell things. So She brought me a 2-page Christmas list. Things misspelled, and she's like, here, I know what I want for Christmas. And she gives me this list. She's like, wait, there's a line at the bottom. What do you want, Dad?
Yeah, there's one more. We got a little space at the bottom. What do you want? So we're figuring this all out. What are you looking forward to the most this holiday season?
Just spending time with the fam. That's it. Not being on the road, just spending time with the fam.
You glad to have Christmas Day off this year?
Yeah, you know what? That was fun though, man.
Was it?
That was fun. If we get a chance to do that again, I would vote to do it. Obviously, our vote doesn't count, but I would.
Not every year.
Yeah.
Not every
ours, but we'd be fine if you didn't.
Either way, I'm good to go.
What's the main dish at the Courtney-Williams household for Christmas?
That's whatever Casey puts on the grill.
You know what? I forgot to bring that up too, because I asked Mac, because we've heard from all of you guys about how great you all are on the grill and how great you guys can cook. And Mac claims he's still the best, but he did give props.
Yeah, right.
Mac's the best.
He did say the one guy that could probably outcook him was Casey Matthews.
Okay, as long as that was said, I'm fine.
Listen, I've never seen him grill anything with my own eyes. Maybe he is. I'm not saying he's not, but I've seen Case go to work, and it's always right on point.
Casey, you don't get this body from not being able to cook, boys.
Casey,
this is hard work.
Does Mac throw out Lincoln Riley style briskets?
You know what? I've never had a brisket from Mac, but Mac, I don't know if you guys know Barney McNeil. Obviously, Jalen does. One of Mac's best friends, and he's become kind of like my barbecue mentor, and he actually does these chuck roasts. And he cooks them just like briskets. I'm telling it, it's unreal.
I will tell you guys this about Mac, Case, and you tell me if I'm wrong. While I don't know how well he can cook, he's the best taste tester in the world. Like Him
he's
and Jeff Vanderloo.
I was going to say him and
those
Lou.
guys down, they'll be able to grade you for sure.
There's no doubt about that.
Lou is overlooking Johnny's shoulder the whole time when they're planning out food on the road trips.
The 2 quotes from the interview last night that I took away from me. 1, I absolutely hate John Bishop. That was a quote from Greg McDermott. And 2, none of these guys can cook other than Casey Matthews. That's exactly what he said.
Wow.
I'm gonna shoot Mac a text and tell him.
That's high praise. Yeah, that's high praise. There you go.
That's his Creighton's defensive coordinator, Jalen Courtney-Williams. Coach, we greatly appreciate your time. We'll let you get back to your day. We'll catch up with you down the road.
Thanks, fellas. Always fun.
That's a wrap for the Roll Jays podcast. We'll catch up with you next week. Brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.
Do you need a customized online marketing plan and creative campaigns to help scale your business and achieve goals in 2023? Pixel Fire Marketing can not only help you achieve those goals, but we will help you crush them this year. Pixel Fire Marketing lives and breathes digital marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing has experts in strategic content creation, social media marketing, and website development. Check out Pixel Fire Marketing today and attack marketing in 2023.